Neymar is exactly what the myth of Icarus warned us about 3,000 years ago. It's the 6th of June, 2015, the Champions League final in Berlin, Barcelona against Juventus. Neymar picks up the ball in the 97th minute of a game that's already been decided, glides past a defender who stopped caring, and places the ball into the net to seal a 3-1 victory.
It's Neymar. It's game, set, and match. Barcelona.
He's 23 years old. He has just won the treble alongside Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez as part of the most devastating front three football has ever produced. He has scored 39 goals in a single season. He is, at this exact moment, the heir to the throne that Messi and Ronaldo have shared for nearly a decade. The entire football world is watching, and every single person in it is thinking the same thing. This player is going to be the best in the world. It's not a question of whether, it's a question of when. He never got there. And a story written on the island of Crete roughly 3,000 years ago already explained why. The myth of Icarus is one of the oldest cautionary tales in human history. Daedalus, a master craftsman imprisoned by King Minos on the island of Crete, builds 2 pairs of wings from feathers and wax so that he and his son Icarus can escape across the sea. Before they take flight, Daedalus gives his son a single warning. Do not fly too close to the sun because the heat will melt the wax that holds the wings together. And do not fly too low near the sea because the moisture will weigh the feathers down. Stay in the middle. Follow my path. Respect the limits of what these wings can withstand. Icarus listens. He nods. Then, the moment he feels the wind carrying him upward, the moment he experiences the intoxicating freedom of flight for the first time, he forgets every word his father said. He climbs higher. The sun feels warm, but not dangerous. The sky looks endless, and he wants to see all of it. By the time the wax begins to soften, it's too late. The feathers separate. The wings collapse. Icarus falls into the Aegean Sea and drowns. The myth has survived for 3 millennia because the pattern it describes has never stopped repeating. Someone is given extraordinary gifts. Someone is warned about the cost of misusing them. Someone ignores the warning because the thrill of ascending feels better than the discipline of staying level. And someone falls. Neymar da Silva Santos Jr. grew up in Mogi das Cruzes, a city on the outskirts of São Paulo. By the time he was 17, every scout in South America had already decided he was the most naturally gifted Brazilian footballer since Ronaldinho. His close control at speed was unlike anything coaches had seen from a teenager. His body feints were so elaborate and so quick that defenders would commit to tackles on space where Neymar had been a full second earlier. Santos gave him his debut at 17, and within 2 years, he was the best player in the Brazilian league, winning consecutive league titles and scoring goals and creating moments that made the entire country believe they had found their next global superstar. He won the Copa Libertadores in 2011 at 19 years old. The last time Santos had won that trophy, Pelé was wearing the shirt. In 2013, Barcelona signed him. And this is where the Icarus parallel begins to take structural form, because what Barcelona offered Neymar wasn't just a football club. It was the ideal set of conditions for sustained flight. He had Messi beside him, the greatest player who ever lived, as both a partner and an implicit mentor. He had Luis Enrique's system giving him freedom in the final third, while protecting him with tactical discipline behind the ball. He had Suarez occupying defenders and creating the spaces that Neymar's skill set was designed to exploit. The MSN Trident scored 364 goals across 2 seasons together. 364. Neymar contributed 105 of them, while also providing 59 assists. He was operating inside a structure that amplified everything he was good at, while compensating for everything he lacked. Daedalus built wings that could fly, but he also built them with a specific limitation. Stay at the right altitude. Don't test the boundaries of what the materials can handle. Barcelona was Neymar's altitude. The system worked because the balance worked. Messi was the sun, and Neymar was close enough to benefit from the light without being consumed by it. Then, in the summer of 2017, Neymar decided to fly higher. Paris Saint-Germain activated his release clause for 222 million euros, more than double the previous world transfer record. The stated reason, repeated endlessly by people around Neymar and eventually by Neymar himself, was that he wanted to step out of Messi's shadow. He wanted to be the main character. He wanted to prove he could carry a project on his own, win the Champions League as the undisputed star, and claim the Ballon d'Or that would never come as long as he was standing next to Messi. This is the moment Icarus ignores his father's warning. Not because the logic was wrong. Neymar was talented enough to be the best player at any club on earth. The talent was never the issue. The issue was that the thing he was flying toward, the sun he was chasing, required him to leave behind the exact structure that made his flight sustainable. Daedalus warned Icarus because he understood something about the nature of the wings. They were extraordinary, but they were not indestructible. They functioned within a specific range of conditions. Push beyond that range and the materials fail. Neymar's gifts were the same. His close control, his creativity, his ability to produce moments of individual genius, all of it was extraordinary, but it had always operated inside a collective framework that provided balance. Barcelona gave him that framework. Paris offered him a throne instead. The PSG years are where the wax starts melting. Not all at once, slowly in ways that were easy to dismiss individually, but devastating when you line them up across 7 seasons. The injuries came first. Neymar missed significant portions of 5 consecutive seasons due to metatarsal fractures in his right foot. Not random bad luck, recurring structural breakdowns in the same part of his body, the part that absorbed the most stress from the way he played. Without Barcelona's tactical protection, Neymar was taking more contact, carrying more of the offensive burden, and demanding more from a body that had always been brilliant but never particularly resilient. Each metatarsal injury carried the same pattern. He'd go down in February or March. He'd miss the Champions League knockout rounds. PSG would get eliminated without him. He'd return for the start of the next season, look magnificent for 3 months, and then break again. The timing of the injuries is where the myth sharpens into prophecy. Neymar missed the second leg of PSG's catastrophic collapse against Barcelona in 2017 through suspension. But the pattern was set. He missed both legs against Real Madrid in 2018 with a metatarsal fracture. He missed the first leg against Manchester United in 2019 with the same injury, the one time he was fully fit for a deep Champions League run. The 2020 final in Lisbon, PSG lost 1-0 to Bayern Munich, and Neymar spent the final minutes of the match in tears on the pitch. That image, Neymar crying after the 2020 final, is the closest football has come to depicting the exact moment Icarus realizes the wings are failing. He could feel it happening. He could see the surface of the sea rushing up toward him, and there was nothing he could do to reverse the physics of the situation he'd put himself in. But the myth of Icarus isn't only about physical destruction. It's about what happens to someone psychologically when they've tasted the highest point and know they're descending. Icarus didn't just fall because the wax melted. He fell because he'd already committed to an altitude he couldn't sustain. Coming back down voluntarily would have meant admitting the climb was a mistake. Neymar never came back down voluntarily. Instead of protecting what remained of his career after the injuries and the missed tournaments and the failed Champions League campaigns, he leaned further into everything that was accelerating the decline. The birthday parties in February became annual events. Flights back to Brazil for Carnival during recovery periods became regular. The commitment to physical conditioning that Barcelona's medical team had enforced was replaced by an independence that Neymar clearly wasn't equipped to manage on his own. Reports from inside PSG's training ground described a player who still had every ounce of technical ability he'd ever possessed, but whose body was no longer capable of expressing it consistently across a full season. By the time Neymar left PSG for Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia in 2023, the narrative had already been written. He'd spent 7 years in Paris. He'd won 5 League One titles in a league where PSG's dominance made those titles feel automatic. He'd never won the Champions League. He'd never won the Ballon d'Or. He'd never stepped out of Messi's shadow in the way that the move was supposed to prove he could. The project that was meant to be his coronation had instead become the most expensive cautionary tale in the history of professional sport. In Saudi Arabia, Neymar tore his ACL within 3 months of arriving. He was 31 years old, An ACL tear at 31 for a player whose game was built entirely on agility, balance, and explosive changes of direction is not just an injury, it is the sea. It is the surface Icarus hits after the fall is already complete. The 2026 World Cup is being played in North America this summer. Brazil, the most successful nation in the history of the tournament, 5-time winners, the country that gave football Pelé and Garrincha, and Romario, and Ronaldo, and Ronaldinho, and Kaká will be there. Neymar will not. The boy from Mogi das Cruzes who was supposed to carry Brazilian football into its next golden era, who scored 79 goals in 128 international appearances, who carried the emotional weight of an entire nation on his back during the 2014 World Cup on home soil until his spine was fractured by a Colombian knee. In the quarterfinals, that player is not in the squad. He is 34 years old, and he is not fit enough, not consistent enough, and not close enough to the level required to represent his country at the tournament that was supposed to be the crowning achievement of his generation. Brazil went to the 2014 semifinal without him and lost 7-1 to Germany in the most humiliating result in their history. In a way, that scoreline was the first sign that the wings weren't going to hold. The nation had built everything around one player, and when that player wasn't there, the entire structure disintegrated. Daedalus survived. He followed his own instructions, flew at the correct altitude, and landed safely in Sicily. He spent the rest of his life living with the knowledge that his son had been given every tool necessary to make the same journey and chose not to use them the way they were designed to be used. Messi is Daedalus. He stayed at Barcelona until the structure could no longer hold him, and even then, he didn't chase the sun. He went to Paris, endured it with minimal drama, and then moved to Miami, where he won yet another trophy before returning to the biggest stage one final time in Qatar and completing football in a way that left nothing unresolved. Messi's career is the correct flight path, the measured altitude, the discipline to trust the wings without testing their limits, the wax intact upon landing. Neymar's career is the version where the wings come apart at 30,000 feet. Not because the wings weren't magnificent, they were. Not because the builder didn't know what he was doing. He did. But because the person wearing them decided that the rules governing their construction didn't apply to him. The myth of Icarus has lasted 3,000 years because the pattern never changes. The gift is real. The warning is clear. The fall is chosen. And by the time the wax begins to drip, it is already far, far too late to come back down.